Hey there, my name is Scott Kaler, and today we're going to talk about installing YugabyteDB Anywhere. Before we get to that real quick, I want to talk about what those pieces kind of are. So Yugabyte is a company that was founded by these three gentlemen. They worked at Facebook doing HBase and Cassandra, and then they stepped out of Facebook and wanted to create a better database than what they had done with HBase and Cassandra. So that's where they came up with Yugabyte database. So Yugabyte database is a cloud-native database, spans multiple nodes, has built-in redundancy, can be deployed in one availability zone, can be deployed across regions, it can even be deployed across clouds. You can run in your data center. It's very flexible. There are run on hardware versions, there are run in Kubernetes versions of this. It has a Cassandra-based interface, so you can use the CQL language in order to connect to the database, or you can use Postgres SQL. So it's got the Postgres front end, can be used to connect to the database and query and store data in the database. So that's a short brief on Yugabyte database, but really we're not talking about Yugabyte database. We're going to want to talk about installing YugabyteDB Anywhere. So YugabyteDB Anywhere is often referred to as the platform. So YugabyteDB Anywhere runs multiple Yugabyte databases. Like a control tower for aircraft, you can run the database without the control tower or without Yugabyte Anywhere. So you can fly airplanes without having a control tower. But YugabyteDB Anywhere is what coordinates multiple databases running, helps you deploy them, helps make changes to them, helps control all of your configuration. So it makes it much easier than having to manually deploy and configure all of the databases. All right, so out on the Yugabyte docs site, we have all the information. Essentially, what I'm going to step through is an install of YugabyteDB Anywhere. In order to do that, I need to make sure I have a system that fits this spec. So we have a minimum requirement of 4 cores, 8 gigs of memory, and 215 gigabytes of disk space. Now, speaking to that, those are minimum requirements. That's kind of like, can you put a hitch on my car? Yes, if your car is of this size, we can attach a hitch to the back of it where you could potentially haul a trailer. Now, just because we attach the hitch doesn't mean that you're ready to hook up a cargo container to the back of your car and drag it somewhere, right? So 4 cores, 8 gigs of memory is good for a small installation, but some of the installations that we get into where we're running 40 universes, which is Yugabyte speak for a database cluster. If you're running 40 plus universes, or you're pulling in metrics from all of that and storing it, and you want to store it for an extended amount of time, some of these numbers need to change to work with big infrastructure support. So these are our bare minimums, so this will get you up and running. Be able to run a few universes using this. So 4 cores, 8 gigs of memory, a couple hundred gig of disk space. You need to be running Python 3.8. We want sudo to do the installation so you can get it root. You can actually run YBA installer not as root, but as a user, and it will contain it all in the user directory. But for this, we'll go with a user that has root installation and can install all of the pieces as root. So what's it take to get it up and running? Well, we'll make sure we fit all of this. So let's do top here. We can see we have 32 gigs of RAM in there. Look, I've got 8 cores, so we're hitting our specs all right there. Another thing we'll check is our Python version. We've got 3.10.12, and we want to have between 3.8 and 3.11. So we're looking pretty good there. Sudo, I think I have full sudo on this machine. Yes, I do. So we're looking good. All right. I've got all my requirements covered here. A license, I do happen to have a license. I have put it in my temp directory, I believe. There we go. Temp directory. All right. Now, operating system. Let's see here. Cat. We're in Ubuntu 2204, and is it in our list? Yes, we're in our list right here. Okay. So we're ready to install. Go to our install doc here. Fairly easy. We have a little piece right here. I've got my license. I'm going to download and extract my YBA installer. So let's just copy this and we'll paste this right here. Now I'll pull this in real quick. If you don't have internet access, download this to a local machine, then you can push it on up to whatever machine you're installing on. The VM that I happen to be running does have external access right now, so I'm able to get out and get at this. I actually also have external access in, so that when I install it, we can go to a web browser and take a look at it. So got it here, should be downloaded. I could go do check some comparisons and all that kind of fun stuff, but I'm just gonna trust it. And we'll go ahead and unpack this. Ooh, wait. We've already unpacked it. I forgot it was a part of the command that we pulled down that it took it. We've got our tar extraction, and then we're in the directory already. All right, because it's all right here. All right, now we're going to go over in this directory. We're going to do this next step, which is a YBA-ctl preflight. So YBA-ctl is our little Go program that does the installation of Yugabyte Anywhere. All right, so if I do a sudo YBA-ctl preflight, it's going to look over my system and tell me whether or not the system is okay to run this. So do a little preflight. Okay, it says it doesn't find a config file. So we're going to say go ahead and create a config file, and it's going to by default put everything in opt YBA-ctl. So we see that's all right. So let's put it out there. All right, we've got some errors. Why do we have errors? All right, let's see what it's going through. So we're doing our preflight. It says, is there a Yugabyte user? No, it's going to need to create one. Does a check on our CPUs. Says we meet our 4, checks on our memory, says we meet our 8. It's going to use these 3 ports because we're going to run Prometheus, we're going to run our web server, and we're going to run Postgres. So it wants to make sure that we can use those ports. It wants to make sure that we've got Python on the system all right, make sure we've got enough disk, and then it's going to get mad here because I don't have my license right here. So I'm going to need to move my license over there. All right, so let's move our license over. I'm going to copy, sudo copy temp my YBA license to opt YBA CTL. There we go. So I'm going to go over here, opt YBA CTL. I'm going to take a look there. So I've got my license. I got my log from my preflight that failed, and then I've got my YBA CTL YAML in here. Now actually I'm going to edit my YAML, so I'm going to use them, which is way better than Emacs, to fix our file up here and do some customizations to it. If I take a look in here, we have like where we're going to install it at, what host it's potentially going to run on. It says I can leave it blank, so I am. For right now, if I want to supply certs, I can, but I'm just going to use self-signed certs on this installation. If I want to be a different user, I could. I am going to run this as root. I'm going to sudo in order to install this. Could modify all sorts of fun stuff in here. There are a couple of things that I do want to modify though. So I'm going to change a couple of quick things. I'm going to go into here and I'm going to say, for Postgres, I'm going to have a password in here. We'll say it's password 123, really complex password. So force Postgres to use a password. If you wanted to, you could use outside Postgres, but we're going to use one that gets installed on the system here. From Prometheus, we're going to say instead of default 15 days of metric retention, let's go with 30 days of metric retention. And we're going to want Prometheus to, oh man, I'm messing up my spaces. We're going to tell Prometheus to use HTTPS to connect. All right. So there's a couple of quick changes in my config file, and we'll save all of that. So now I've got a modified YBA-ctl YAML inside of my opt YBA-ctl directory. All right, so I'm going to go back to where I was trying to install from, and we're going to try and install it. Well, actually, let's do our preflight first to make sure that our preflight works. So I'm going to use YBA-ctl that's here. I'm going to want a sudo YBA-ctl. We're going to preflight it. All right, what's preflight going to tell us? Everything's good. All right, let's go ahead and install it. So go from a preflight to an install. All right, so it's going through at this point in time, and it's doing all the checks and installing all of the packages. Now, it's going to put all of these packages in the opt directory. That's where it installs everything at by default when I do a sudo install. If I were to not do a sudo install, this will go into the user directory and it will put a local Postgres, a local Prometheus, and the YBA software in that user's directory and contain it inside of there, if that is what you so wish. In this instance, I am doing it with sudo permission, so it's putting it in the opt directory. So it's getting everything up to go, it's generating my certificate, and right now it's waiting for the Yugabyte Anywhere to become available. That's really all that it takes right now. Kicks through this pretty fast. It's a pretty painless install. See, if I go out here, it's still waiting for it to start up. Usually it takes maybe about 4 iterations of checking, maybe 30 to 40 seconds. I have seen on like when you really reduce the resources, it can take a lot longer to come up, but at this point in time, usually about 30 to 40 seconds is the amount of time before it pops up and it starts running. So there we go. I saw it running. I can see right here, it's giving me my URL if I were on an internal network to get at it. I've got an external URL hooked up to this. So I can do also, so forward facing, I can do a YBA-ctl status. I have to sudo the YBA-ctl status. There we go. And you can see it's telling me Postgres is running, Prometheus is running, YB platform is running. It's also telling me right here where everything's at, some useful information, right? Where my logs are, where my config is, all that other fun kind of stuff. It's good to know where the Postgres is running at if you need to locally access the Postgres, right? This will be at where the localized Postgres version is running. So that can become important when you want to get into the database, the Postgres database that runs Yugabyte Anywhere itself. All right, other side note, YBA-ctl has a whole lot of other functions. YBA-ctl help, sudo YBA-ctl help will show you everything that it can do. So if you take a look here, we have clean it up. So if I want it to go away, I could do that. Take backups of it. If you want to generate that config file, all sorts of fun stuff in here. The status that we saw, which is here, is based off of systemctl stuff. So I should be able to sudo systemctl status YB platform. If I can spell correctly, there we go. All right, so you can see there's a service that's running YB platform at this point in time. And if I do a process list, let's see, Yugabyte, you can see I've got a Postgres running. Actually, let me make that scroll a little bit so you can see you've got a Postgres running up here. Prometheus is running there, so Postgres, Prometheus, and then we've got our software down here running. Right? And that's all of our processes are going. So everything should be up and going. I should be able to flip over here and see if we can get here. And because I'm using a self-signed cert, it's throwing me out to just your standard page. I'm going to sign up. I'm going to say me. Make a password. Ooh. See if I can keep that finger on keys. That's always happens when you go to like make a recording. All right, so there we go. Scalar@yugabyte.com, and we're going to go with, let's see if I can remember the password I just put in a second ago. Oh, I didn't get it right. There we go. We're in. All right. So this is our Yugabyte Anywhere is up and running. Take a look at my user up here, profile logs, all that fun stuff. You can see I'm running 2024 2.1. Next step that you would go into is integrations. There's a couple of routes you could go. One would be admin, you set up another one of these and you put them in high availability. And then you have an active and a standby. So you start pushing back and forth between each other so that it can cover each other if you take one out. Another route to go would be setting up your integrations. And you can see here, you can set up, and this is how we deploy databases into the cloud. So I'm running in GCP right now, so I'd most likely set up a GCP provider, which would be putting all the permissions in necessary to allow the platform to create nodes to run the database on and manage them in GCP. But you can see we can do it in AWS, in Azure, got Tanzu, OpenShift, just a generic Kubernetes service, and on-premise data center. So if you wanted to create nodes or VMs, you could assign these just as hosts that are out there to the system and be able to utilize those in order to set up the database. But anyway, that's just a quick walkthrough of installing all of this. Now, in order to clean this up, one of the things I can do is I can do a sudo yba-ctl. Okay, we'll use a local one. Clean. I think it's clean. Yep. And it's going to stop everything and clean it all up. So if you're looking at this as a way to install stuff and check it out, you can also clean up the system when you're done. So there we go. All right. So that's it for now. That's a quick install. We'll do some other videos on other pieces of the software as we can. Thanks for watching.